Church World Kicking here. We are here for another exciting Bible study here. Just so you guys know, if you just joining us tonight, we had started from the book of Genesis, and we're going to work our way to the book, to the end of the book, and so that we can be more familiar with the subject matter or what the book says. You know, I found out that a lot of people have not had the privilege of reading the book, and for the most of the part, they say, well, the Old Testament is so confusing. And as I'm going through the book with everybody, you see the Old Testament is pretty much is most of the history that we don't know about how it got started and why it got started. And you need to know the how, the why, the when, and the way, so that you can know the way back on this side. Because a lot of things start at one point and end at a certain point. And you might know the end of something, but you never really know the full beginning, and you can't really understand or appreciate the end of a matter till you know the beginning of it. So, having said all that, we did Genesis. We got through Genesis. We pulled out some very significant facts of Genesis. We established Jesus on the day one of Genesis, and from Genesis even to Exodus, this Lord figure is what we say is Jesus. And so we proved it out. If you dispute what I'm saying, then you have to go back to the teachings of Genesis to understand how we come up with that conclusion. And I use the Bible to prove all that out. So tonight we're in the book of Exodus 37, 38, as we get ready to close this out here. And we're going to be talking about so let's just rewind back a minute here. God had chose a wise man, Bezaleel, do the work. He had told Moses in advance, I'm going to put wisdom in this man. I'm going to do him so he can do the work. Now, what I want to, before I start tonight, Moses had a part in this plan of redemption. Aaron had a plan of redemption, but Bezaleel also had a big plan, because Bezaleel is what God chose to use the kingdom. And you see God now putting the peoples that he had put in place to do things. And you see God doing it. In other words, Bezaleel didn't jump up and say, Moses, I want to do this. God chose this man. And this is what we had now. And Bezaleel made all that the Lord have commanded Moses. So this Bezaleel is the one that is going to begin to work here. Okay. And so now, Bezaleel made the ark of shittim woods 2 cubits and a what half, and the length of it, and the cubit and a half, the breadth of it, and a cubit and a half, the height of it. And he overlaid it with pure gold within and without, and made a crown of gold to it round about. And he cast for it 4 rings of what gold to set by the 4 corners of it, 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings up on the other side of it. And he made the stave of shittim wood and overlaid them with what gold, as God had said it. You see old Bezaleel doing what God has said. And he put the staves of the rings by the sides of the ark to bear the what ark. And so that's what they used to pick it up and carry it. Because remember now, they are not in the place that God you're going to lead them and guide them to, so that they're going to be moving. So this church, or this sanctuary that God has built, was a portable thing that they got to make, and they got to carry this so that Jesus can dwell among them. Boy, I think this is pretty cool. And he made a mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits and a what half, and the length thereof 2 cubits and a what half, and the breadth thereof thereof. And he made 2 cherubims of what gold, beaten out of one piece of made with them. So these angels that he put up there was just one big piece of gold that he made to sit up on the mercy seat, or on 2 ends of the what mercy seat. One cherubim on end of this side, and another a cherubim on the end of the other side of it. And the cherubim or cherubims are the angels that God had them put on top of the mercy seat. Out of the mercy seat made he the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubim spread out their what wings on what high. So they were standing there with their wings stretched out, and they covered their wings over the what mercy seat. And so now they sitting there with their wings over the seat. So like I said, when Jesus sit down on this mercy seat, he had a covering of pure gold, and then he had that curtain before him, but Jesus had covered with their face one to another, even to the mercy seat wards, where their face of the where the face of the what cherubim. So they was watching each other, looking at each other upon the mercy seat. And he made the table of shittim wood, 2 cubits, and they what the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit the height, the cubit and a half the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and made thereunto a what crown of gold round about. Everything that he's telling Moses, this man is now is put into place. See, so was it so hard to understand Exodus? Okay, the beginning of Exodus, God took Israel out. Okay, He gave them the law. He gave them instructions to make a church. He gave them so many different things, and this is all Exodus is. What is there to understand? There's nothing significant about I gotta know it's written in code. It's pretty much very straightforward. So all the man is doing is making the sanctuary that God said here. Okay. He cast the 4 wings with gold and put the rings. He cast the 4 rings of gold and put the rings on the corners that were in the 4 feet thereof. And he over against the borders of the what ring he placed for the what staves to bear the what table. And he made the staves of shittim woods to overlay them with what gold to bear the what table. This is the table of what the shewbread here that he's doing. So everything that God told him to do, this man is what making him. And he made all the vessels which were unto the what table, his dishes, his spoons, his bowls, and his what cover to cover with a pure what back. He's going to make the candlesticks right here, 17. And he made the candlestick of pure gold. Of beating works made he the candlesticks, his staff, his branches, his bowls, his knobs, his flowers, were all the what same. 6 branches out of the one side thereof, and 3 branches of the candlestick out on the other side thereof, and the branches of the candlestick out on the other side thereof. So now he made the 6 branches, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, just like God had told him to. The bowls was made after the fashion of a what almond, just like God told him to, one in one what branch, a knob and a what flower, 3 bowls made like armors in another what branch, a knob and a what flower. So throughout the 6 branches going out of the what candlestick. So everything was uniform. Everything was just like God said. The bowls and stuff he put in on the candlestick. That's all the Bible is saying. What Jesus told Moses to do in the mountain is what this man is actually physically doing now. When Jesus said the first time to Moses, he was just explaining to Moses what he wanted. And now what he's wanted, he's bringing it to what reality. He chose the man that he wants to make this. And this man is physically making the stuff for the what church right now. And the candlesticks were 4 bowls made like a what almond, his knobs and his what flower, and the knob under 2 branches of the what same, a knob under 2 branches of the what same, a knob up under a branch, 2 branches of the what same, according to the 6 branches unto that goes going out of it. Now everything was uniform, as we said. Okay, the knobs and the branches were the what same. All of it was one beating work of what pure gold, just like I showed you that picture of it in the sanctuary here. And he made his what 7 lamps, and his he made the 7 lamps, and his with his snuffer and his snuffer dishes of what pure gold, and a talent of pure gold made it, and all the vessels thereof. And he made the incense altar of shittim wood. The length of it was a what cubit, and the breadth of it was a cubit, and was 4 square, and the 2 cubits was the what height of it, and the horns thereof were the what same. Now he's making an altar of incense. He overlaid it with pure gold, both the top of it and the side thereof around about, and the what horns of what it. Also he made unto it a crown of gold around about, and he made 2 rings of what gold for it under the what crown thereof, by the 2 corners of it, the two sides thereof to be placed for a stave to bear it with her. And so, in other words, the everything that he made, it was portable so they can carry it. So you had them rings and you had the stave to bear it. And he made the stave of shittim wood and overlaid them with pure gold. And he made the holy anointing oil, pure incense of sweet spices, according to the work of the apothecary. What is apothecary? Apothecary is like a natural or medicine cabinet or natural herbal cabinet. You see, that's where you get that word apothecary from. Okay, 38. As we get ready to go down through here, we got 31 verses in here. You see, as we said, that the man is making everything that the Lord have commanded Moses, even as he was said here. See, and he made the altar of burnt. He made the altar burnt offering out of shittim wood. 5 cubits was the what length thereof. 5 cubits was the what breadth thereof. It was 4 squares, so it was a perfect square. And 3 cubits was the height thereof. And he made the horns thereof unto the 4 corners of it. And the horns thereof were the what same. And he overlaid it with pure brass. Now everything else he made with gold here, but the burnt offering he made with what brass here. I wonder what was the difference. And he made all the vessels, all the pots, the staves, the basins, the foot, the flesh hood, and the frying pan, and all the vessels, maybe because it was kind of sort of like a stove. There was made with what brass, but everything else he made, the cooking utensil, hooks, and all that for that altar was made out of what brass. And everything else that Jesus made special for him to sit on was pure gold, just like the streets of heaven. Jesus said it was gold, like as if transparent gold when you read in the book of Revelation. And he made of the 4 altars, altar of what basin, great of network under the what the compass, the compass thereof beneath the midst of it. And he cast the 4 rings of the 4 ends of the what grate of the what of brass, and he placed and a place for the what staves, and he made the what staves of shittim wood to overlay them with what brass, and he put the staves unto the what rings on the sides of the what altar to bury it with her, and he made the altar hollow with what boards. And he made the ladle of the what the base, and the foot of the what base for the of the what looking glasses, looking with the looking glasses of the women's of the looking glasses of the what the women's assembly, and which assemble at the what door of the tabernacle or congregation here. And he made the court on the south side, on the south side, southward of the hanging of the wood court would with fine twined linen was 100 cubit here. Now he's making the sides to lock this thing in. Okay, he made the vessel, so he got to make all these curtains so that once this thing stand up, it can be one big giant place. Their pillars of 20, and their what basin a socket 20, and the hooks of the pillars, and their sorry about that, and their fillets with what silver here. On the north side, he hung north side the hanging were 100 cubit, and their pillars was 20 cubit. Their sockets of brass 20, and the hooks of the pillars and their fillers was what silver here. And on the west side were hung 50 cubits. Their pillows 10, their sockets 10, their hooks of the pillows, and their pillows of what silver here. On the east side were 50 cubits. Okay, the hanging of one side of the gate were 50 cubits. The pillar was 3, and the sockets was what 3. On the other side of the court gate, on the hand of the what on the hand on this hand and that hand were hanging 50 cubits, their pillows 3, and their socket 3. All the hanging of the court around about of fine twined linen. So that's what he's doing now. He's building the wall for this thing to be stood up. But we read this so much time. On one instant he was saying what he wanted, and now you see Bezaleel is putting this thing together as God wanted, as God instructed to Moses. Now it's physically being put together. Okay. And the sockets of the pillar was what brass, and the hooks of the what pillars, and their the fillets was silver, and their overland their what carpentry of what silver, and all the pillars of the court of the pillar was what silver. So everything now he went from gold, but as he began to hang these curves, now he's using the silver. You see him use brass when he began to make the altar, the burning altar. And so now you see Jesus is using the other material to bring this thing out. And he hung all the gate of the court with needlework, a blue, a purple, a scarlet, a fine twined linen, and 20 cubits was the length of it. And the height is the what breadth is 5 cubits, answerable to the hanging of the what court here. And the pillars were 4, and the sockets of brass 4, and the hooks were of silver, and the overland of the was that their fillers was what silver here. And all the pins of the tabernacle and the court round about was of what brass. The song of the tabernacle, even the tabernacle of testimony, wall as it was accounted according to the commandment of what Moses for the service of the what Levi by the hanging by the hands of Ithamar and the sons of Aaron the what priest, and Bezaleel the son of Ur, the son of Ahua, the tribe of what Judah, made all that the Lord commanded what Moses. He did everything that God wanted him to do. Him and he was with I can't pronounce his name, Havulio or something, the tribe from the tribe of Dan, and engraved and an engraver and a cunning workman, as the embroidery in the what blue and in purple and in scarlet and in fine what linen here. All the gold that was occurred for the what work in all the work of the what holy place, and all the gold of the what offering was 29 talents and 730 shekels, as the shekel of the what sanctuary. And the silver of them that were numbered of the congregation was a what 120 100 talents, and 1,703 skulls, and 50 shekels, after the shekel of the what sanctuary. I don't know how you count that in modern time here, but it is what it is. A knocker for every man, it was a half of what shekel, after the shekel of the what sanctuary. And everyone that went into went to be numbered from 20 years old and upward is 600,000 and 3,550 men's. I don't know if they're counting the women's or they're just counting the men's when he's doing this count here. You know, because when David told them the number of the men's of Israel, I think he was just numbering the male peoples here that was of the age of 20, because it said particularly say men here. If I think if it includes the women, it would be the children of Israel. But according to the men, they all have to give that shekel as God had commanded them. And of the 100 talents of silver were cast unto the sockets of the sanctuary, and the sockets of the veil was 100 sockets, and of a 100 talents, a talent for a socket here. And of the 720 shekels, he made the hooks of the pillows, and overlaid them with what's that? Uh, 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 Cheapers, I don't know, and the fillers them and collected them, however he did it. And the brass of the offering was 20 talent, 200,000 and 400 shekels, and therewith he made a shackle to the door of the tabernacle of congregation, and the basins altar, and the basin gate, the grate of it, all the vessels of the altar, and the sockets of the court around about, and the sockets of the court gate, and all the pins of the tabernacle, and all the pins of the court round about. And that's what we end up to. Did I have some more? But I'm missing one. Somehow I'm missing the last few verses here, but you can go back and you can get on down to 38 here. But anyway, to make a long story short, all that Beelzebub is doing is pretty much doing everything that God told Moses to do. And now you're seeing that the tabernacle and stuff is being put together as God said it. Now, the book of Exodus is going to end with them finishing up the work. They're going to erect they're going to put this thing together, and then God is going to have Moses to go in. Next Bible, so you see God have Moses go in, and Moses is going to set up everything that God had him set up as he set it up. And that's when Jesus now began to come down and deal with Israel, because now he had placed a home among Israel. Now, the funny thing is here, when Jesus came on earth, he said that the Son of Man have no place to lay his head. Why? Because now the things that they had done after Jesus had left, Jesus was not coming in and out that sanctuary. That was a disconnect there. You see Jesus with them all the way in the book of Exodus. You're going to see him with them in Leviticus. And after a while, that's going to be a gap. Jesus is not going to be visiting the children of Israel no more, like you're doing now. And you'll see that going on down in history as you begin to learn the Bible. It is important for us to learn what the Bible say, or have some type of understanding of what it's saying. I try my best to read along, which is some of the words escapes me. Some of them I just try to get you through it. But just to understand the Bible, you can always go listen to it as you read it, and that's how I catch the word. Most the things that the information I got with it, because if I didn't understand it when I read it, I can go along and read along with the text there, and then you have an understanding of what God is saying. The names and things are not important as much as you know that God is selecting peoples. He's putting peoples in place, and if you're going to have an organization or a church, that's kind of needed what be happening. God need to be able to select the peoples that he need to do certain things. Moses was important, but it was not Moses' job to build the temple. We put too much work on one person without understanding that we should go to God and say, hey, Lord, how can I be judged for this work? And how can I do it? See, you had the women's, wooling thread and putting things together, dyeing stuff. So everybody worked together to bring about this vision that God had. And that's what we forget about at the church. We don't understand that we have an important part of what God is doing and how God wanted to do it. Well, that's my message for the night. 37, 38. We're getting ready to end, like I say, the book of Exodus here, so that we can continue to go on with the rest of the book. I am surprised that I didn't put those two in. I don't know how I missed that. I don't know what had happened, but I did. So maybe we'll start with those two when we start back up and roll it from there. maybe we'll just start with those, the ones that I missed, and then we roll over to 39 and 40 and get ready to close it out. So it's just going to end with them doing what God said. Now, it's funny. The book of Exodus, he takes them to the mountain. He give them instruction. He have to kill 5,000 of them for being naked down there. Okay. He tell them what he want. Okay. He give them the commandment. He give them the laws. He make everything legal. Give it to them the testimony. Okay. Then he build a house, put a place for the testimony, build all this other kind of stuff. And that's all the book of Exodus is. I don't understand why it have to be more than what it is. It's right there, plain and simple, no more, no less. You know, if you like what you hear, you got to go to Lebanon Church Waukegan. Again, that is LebanonChurchWaukegan.org. Again, that's LebanonChurchWaukegan.org. Go to our live broadcast tab. Please collect on our Bible study collection. Become a part of our Bible study community. You give access to tons of video and a link to go live. Again, that's Lebanon Church Waukegan live broadcasts. Okay. Then look for a drop down menu, Bible study. Click join. Get access. May God bless each and every one of you tonight as we get ready to go live.